Listening practice exercises. Listen and focus. Legend of the origin of Centipede Lake. East Kalimantan, Indonesia. At one time, Warakaiman was a sea. There stood a kingdom with a city by the bustling sea. There was a beautiful princess named Princess Aji Bloody White. Who owns the story was called that because if the princess ate betel, then the red, thick water she swallowed would be seen as it flowed. The beauty spread throughout the lands and kingdoms beyond. Once upon a time, the princess' fame reached the ears of a Chinese king from a foreign country. So the king of China immediately took an army across the sea with a big junk to propose to Princess Aji Bloody White. The presence of the king of China was greeted with great fanfare. First, the beautiful princess welcomed the guest with a lively banquet. Dances and songs were also presented to add to the excitement of the party. How happy the king received such a lively reception. The beautiful princess knew that the presence of the king of China was none other than to marry her. However, as soon as she saw the movements and the way he devoured the food, the princess suddenly became immeasurably disgusted. How unusual was the king of China's way of eating, which was no different from the way a dog ate food. Not only did the princess feel disgusted, even when the proposal was made, the princess also felt humiliation. Of course, it was not appropriate for a respectable king to have a beast-like character. The proposal was like a slap to the princess. However, this rejection accompanied by anger was also met with anger by the king of China. He was hurt. Blood flowed to the top of his head. When he faced this extraordinary shame, his hands clasped as if he wanted to be hit by whatever was in front of him. After returning from there, he ordered his warlord to attack the kingdom of Princess Aji Bloody White. The battle was inevitable. Thousands of soldiers of the king of China surged like a ferocious sea wave. Facing that attack, the princess's warriors did not want to lose. She matched the fierce onslaught with extraordinary courage. The longer the princess was worried, the more she saw the waves of attacks from the king of China's soldiers, who could not be matched by his army, which was far less in number. The princess was afraid that soon her army would be crushed. So, as the incarnation of a powerful king, she began to rise when the oppression was getting heavier. She took the kinang from the container. Then she chewed betel nut while chanting magic incantations. Her mouth was moving and her beautiful eyes were closed. Not long after, the princess spouted betel leaves in all directions. Wonderful! The saplings suddenly transformed into millions of ferocious centipedes that attacked the large line of soldiers of the king of China. The centipedes now became a line of soldiers who took over the ranks of Princess Aji's soldiers who were starting to be pushed back. In an instant, the king of China's army was paralyzed by the ferocity of the centipedes. Most of the remaining run helter-skelter to leave the area. However, the centipedes attacked and chased them down to the sea, where the soldiers fled in their junks. Their boats sank. The entire army of the king of China annihilated. The place that sank the Chinese king's junk became a vast field that merged with the sea. Siadan, that place until now is called Lake Centipede.
The second story. The legend of Si Jampang from Betawi, Indonesia. Long ago, Jampang was a Betawi man who lived during the time when Indonesia was still colonized by the Dutch. He was known for his high martial arts knowledge and was also good at playing a machete as a weapon. Since he was young, Si Jampang liked to rob. Until he got married, he still did his habit of robbing. Even when his wife died and his son was a teenager. Although he was known as a robber, Si Jampang did not want his son to follow in his footsteps. He wanted his son to become a religious expert. So, he wanted to put his son in the Islamic boarding school. Xi Jinping's son agreed to enter the Islamic boarding school on the condition that his father would stop his bad behavior. Xi Jinping just laughed at his son's words. One day, Xi Jinping visited Sorba, his old friend. He has not visited in a long time. He did not think that his best friend had died. He was met by Mai Ingzuri, the wife of the late Sarba. Mai Ingzuri said that she and her husband used to make a pilgrimage to Mount Kepabacho. They prayed at that place and asked to be blessed with children. Sarba promised, if his prayer was granted, he would donate to buffaloes. God finally answered their prayers. Mai Ingzuri became pregnant and finally gave birth to a boy they named Abde. When Abde was a teenager, Sarba died. First, finding that Mai Ingzuri was widowed, while he was also a widower. Xi Jinping then proposed to Mai Ingzuri. However, Mai Ingzuri rudely refused Xi Jinping's proposal. The herd Jinping then looked for a shaman to put a spell on Mai Ingzuri. With the help of his nephew named Sarpan, he found the shaman. His name was Pakdol, a shaman from the village of Gabis. Jinping then put a spell on Mai Ingzuri with Pakdol's charms. Mai Ingzuri went crazy after being hit by witchcraft. She often talked and laughed to herself. Abde, who was very concerned, tried to find a way to cure his mother's madness. Abde then looked for a shaman. Incidentally, the shaman he met was Pakdol from Gabis village, so Pakdol could easily release the witchcraft that hit Mai Ingzuri. Xi Jinping then met Abde and expressed his interest in marrying Abde's mother. And the Abde asked for a pair of buffaloes for his mother's dowry. Xi Jinping agreed, even though a pair of buffaloes was not an easy matter for Xi Jinping to get. Xi Jinping tried to think of a way to get a pair of buffalo. He remembered Haji Saud, who lived in Tambo. Haji Saud was very rich, but very miserly. Xi Jinping then contacted Sarpan and invited his nephew to rob Haji Saud's house. Apparently, the robbery plan was known to Haji Saud. Haji Saud has contacted the police. The police immediately alerted around Haji Saud's house. So, when Xi Jinping and Sarpan, who were wearing all black, came to rob them, the police immediately surrounded them. Xi Jinping was arrested and imprisoned. He was later sentenced to death. The bosses and landlords welcomed Xi Jinping's death because they felt free from the trouble that Xi Jinping had caused. However, the death of Xi Jinping was mourned by the poor, even though he was known as a robber. Xi Jinping gave them a lot of help. Most Xi Jinping distributed the loot to those in need. For the poor, Xi Jinping was a hero.
Do not forget your contribution to like and subscribe.